Good evening. Welcome to our post-game coverage of South Carolina and Kentucky here at Williams-Brice Stadium in Columbia. South Carolina downs the Wildcats 35-13, and our report is brought to you by the South Carolina Beef Council. Well, the Gamecocks like to say welcome home, and tonight they welcomed home two important people. One was Connor Shaw. Just a couple of weeks ago, he suffered a serious health issue. Tonight, he was the ceremonial starter of the game for the Gamecocks, and the Gamecock fans were incredibly accepting of him and very happy to see him up and around with his young son on the field at Williams-Brice Stadium once again. That was an uplifting moment for everybody in the stadium. The other was Lenora Sellers. Well, not that Sellers had really gone anywhere, that he had been playing poorly or anything like that for the most part. I mean, he did throw for 300 yards last week at Missouri. But tonight, for the first time since the Clemson game, he looked like Lenora Sellers of the Clemson game. He cut it loose, running the football, didn't have to throw it a whole lot, so the Gamecocks were more balanced on offense, made some incredible runs, some spins away from sacks, some running through tackles, yards after contact, the whole deal. And he was back to being the guy that was so highly acclaimed in the offseason in terms of being that complete quarterback, not just a thrower. He did show off his arm some tonight, but the running game, his legs, very important. And when he's able to do what he did tonight, then there's no reason not to run him and use that aspect of his offensive threat. So this game got off to a tough start for South Carolina. Kentucky came out and hit the Gamecocks right in the mouth, took the opening kickoff. They go down the field. They score. However, South Carolina quickly responded with their own long touchdown drive. Kentucky then kicked a field goal. It was 10-7 after the opening quarter. Looked like we were going to have a very high-scoring game. Then in the second quarter, the Gamecocks made a couple of really incredible defensive plays, both scores, as the Gamecocks continue to pile up the points without the offense. So the first one came on a sack by Dylan Stewart, who also had an excellent night tonight. He really showed his stuff tonight, and he made a beautiful move into the middle on a spin move and a stunt that the Gamecocks were running, and he came up through the middle, and he hit the Kentucky quarterback, and he forced a fumble. J.T. Gear picked it up, ran it in for a touchdown. That got Williams-Brice Stadium shaking as the Gamecocks took the lead for good at that point. About 45 seconds later, it was a pass interception by Gerald Kilgore, and he did some beautiful running as he weaved his way through the Kentucky players and into the end zone. So the Gamecocks had a couple of touchdowns in less than a minute, and they had seized control of this football game at that point. The Gamecocks carried that domination into the second half. Their defense was stupendous in the second half. In the second half, the Gamecocks outgained Kentucky 205-36. Kentucky went 6 straight possessions from the second quarter into the third quarter in which they did nothing. Turnovers, punts, they got nothing on the scoreboard during that time. The Gamecocks in the second half, 36 plays to 18 for Kentucky, 18 minutes and 44 seconds, 11 to 11-16 of time of possession. So the Gamecocks just totally dominated the second half of this ball game. And Kentucky ran the ball very well against the Gamecocks early in the game, but not in the second half. Whatever adjustments or whatever change in effort the Gamecocks made really paid off in the second half. Final yardage totals 341 to 232. The Gamecocks were 8 of 15 on third down. They only had 5 penalties after all the penalties at Missouri last week. No turnovers. They had 6 sacks, 10 tackles for loss. Did a good job of keeping Kentucky from having a big play. They only had one big play in the passing game, and that was a 53-yard pass to their tight end. Otherwise, nothing big down the field in the passing game. Sellers was 11 of 14 for 153 yards, a quarterback rating of 170.4. He also ran 14 times for 81 yards. He had runs of 12 yards, 17 yards, and 20 yards. The Gamecocks used Fuller as their primary running back in the fourth quarter, and he ended up carrying the ball 19 times for 48 yards. They really like the way he just runs hard and runs pretty much on a straight line. Not a lot of wiggle with him. It's just give him the ball and he runs it up in there and he moves the pile. That's something that the Gamecocks want to see from their running backs. Jacobs had another big night catching the ball. He was targeted 5 times. He caught all 5 passes for 108 yards. He averaged 21.6 yards per catch. He had a 59-yard catch and run on the last play of the third quarter that set up the Gamecocks' final touchdown early in the fourth quarter. So good win for South Carolina. They're on the board in the SEC now. They're 1-2 in league play, 3-2 overall as they hit their first open week. Not exactly where the Gamecocks had hoped to be. They had hoped to be 5-0 at this point, but they lose to Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt is continuing to prove it's a heck of a team. And then they lose a game out at Missouri last week where they led going to the fourth quarter and just didn't play well in the fourth quarter. No such thing here tonight. Maybe the memory of that Missouri game weighed on them because they were not going to let up in the second half, in the fourth quarter here tonight. They wanted to finish on a high note, and they certainly did that tonight. So the opening 5 games of the season now behind South Carolina. And again, the hope was to be 5-0, maybe no worse than 4-1. So they're a little bit behind the 8 ball here as you look at the rest of this schedule, and it's daunting. It is definitely daunting. We're going to just see how good this South Carolina football team is when they come back to their schedule after their open week. Of course, they've got a road trip to LSU. They've got Alabama at home. They got Oklahoma at home in no particular order. They've got Ole Miss on the road. They've got Texas A&M on the road. It's a very tough slate ahead for South Carolina. Can the Gamecocks handle it? Well, a lot of people didn't think they could handle similar slates last year, and they certainly turned it on and had that nice winning streak down the end of the season. So we'll see what they can do this time around. Injury-wise, Marquis Anderson, who was in playing offensive guard, suffered a knee injury, and he had to be helped off the field. And Shane Beamer did not have any additional information on him after the game. So maybe we'll have something on that tomorrow night on the conference call with Shane Beamer at 5 o'clock. They play without 2 of their starting offensive linemen, Hay, the center, and Henry, the right tackle. So the offensive line continues to be a revolving door as they keep running players out of there. Trevon Baugh played a lot at right guard. At one point, they had moved. They moved Tree Babalotti over to left tackle, and they had taken Thompson out. Don't know if Thompson was hurt or just what, but they had Babalotti playing over there and Shivers playing at right tackle. So they continue to mix and match on the offensive line, trying to find that magical formula up there. But tonight, for now, a good feeling all around. Connor Shaw is doing great, was here tonight, and that was very positive. And then to top it off, the Gamecocks go out and play well. That's not a bad Kentucky team. They lost by less than a touchdown to an excellent Ole Miss team. So that's not a bad Kentucky team. They can't throw it very well. They can line up and run it, and they did that early until the Gamecocks kind of figured things out there. So a good win for South Carolina tonight as they go to 3-2 and 1-2 in the SEC. 35-13 over Kentucky, 4 in a row now over the Wildcats. That'll do it for our coverage tonight. Sports Talk at the stadium here at Williams-Brice Stadium, brought to you by the South Carolina Beef Council.